We waited so long. We gave so much time to the UFC and to the fighters. We waited very patiently, but now the fighters in the UFC are finally giving us an event after 28 days of no new UFC content in terms of fighting. Finally, we made it to Strickland versus Imavov. This is the first card of 2023. Sean Strickland headlined the last card, which was the last card of 2022. Now headlining the first card of 2023. I don't think that's ever been done before. Sean Strickland breaking records and now stepping in on short notice to fight Nasruddin Imavov at a 205-pound catchweight. Sean Strickland weighed in at 204. Imavov weighed in at 197, so they're 10 pounds apart on weigh-in day. This is it's not the most stacked card, especially the prelims. They're not super stacked. You got a few undefeated guys there, a few promising prospects, but the main card is pretty decent, and that's what I'm going to stick to for my predictions this time around, just the main card. So I'm going to start with Umar Nurmagomedov versus Raoni Barcelos. Let me open both of their fighter pages. Got the undefeated Umar Nurmagomedov, ranked right now number 11 in the UFC bantamweight division, 15-0. His last win was against Nate Maness back at the end of June 2022 for a UFC fight night. He was meant to fight Jack Shore before that, but that fight got canceled. And he made his UFC. No, he didn't make his UFC date. That was Muhammad Mokaev. I'm mixing these people up. We're gonna go to Raoni Barcelos. Nice 17-3 record. It's not bad. He's 6-2 in the UFC. His last fight was a win against Trevin Jones, and that was back in October. That was what fight was that? That was the Mackenzie Dern versus Joni and Jan fight night undercard. So, he doesn't have any streaks, no winning streaks, no losing streaks. He hasn't fought in around 2 months, a little bit like 2 months and a half. So it's not that much time off. Umar Nurmagomedov had a little bit more time off. He's 3-0 in the UFC. He's 2-0 in the PFL. Who do I think wins this? I think it's clear that Nurmagomedov will get this done. But how will he get it done? I thought about this. I've been thinking, and I think it's more likely he gets it done by a decision, some kind of unanimous decision. Nah, it has to be a unanimous decision. Yeah, I think he'll likely win every round, dominate on the ground as well. I think that's what most people are going with. We move on to Ketlin Vieira, number 2 in bantamweight versus Raquel Pennington, number 5. I should have this open before. Okay, Raquel Pennington versus Ketlin Vieira. Ketlin Vieira coming off of a win against Holly Holm in her last fight. It was a split decision win. Holly Holm had taken a lot of time off, obviously. She's on a 2-fight winning streak against former champions in the form of Miesha Tate and Holly Holm. She fought once in 2022. Her last fight was at the end of May. And now she's fighting again against the number 5 ranked Raquel Pennington. 7-2 in the UFC. 2-fight winning streak. I already said that. And let's go to Raquel Pennington. 14-8. Not the best record. She is 11-5 in the UFC. But despite her record, she does have an impressive 4-fight winning streak right now, which include the likes of Macy Chiasson and Aspen Ladd, who were both top contenders at the time. Her last win was in April. So both these girls have taken a lot of time off in their careers, but now they're finally coming back to fight against each other. This is a top 5 contender bantamweight fight. This is going to be a good decider for who's going to fight Amanda Nunes next, probably. Because I think Raquel Pennington fought Nunes, if I'm not. She hasn't. Oh, no, she did. Yeah, okay. I thought I was going crazy. But Raquel Pennington already fought Nunes. Ketlin Vieira has not. So if Ketlin Vieira wins this one, she already beat Holly Holm. She already beat Miesha Tate. That would put her on a 3-fight winning streak. Juliana Pena is number 1 right now. Nunes beat her. And this would keep, if Ketlin Vieira wins, that would keep her at number 2, which would likely give her the title shot that she's been looking for against Amanda Nunes. Who do I think wins this fight? I think Ketlin Vieira takes it, and I think she takes it by a unanimous decision. That's a decision. Yeah, unanimous decision. Okay. We move on to Soriano versus Kopylov or Kopylov. I completely forgot how they pronounce his name at the weigh-ins, but if we look at if they would load first, that'd be great. Soriano 9-2 in the UFC. No, 9-2 professionally, 3-2 in the UFC. He's coming off a win against Dalka Lungiambula, who recently last week got cut from the UFC. It was by second round knockout, very impressive knockout. Before that, he was on a 2-fight losing streak against Brendan Allen and Nick Maximov. One of them was unanimous decision loss. One of them was split decision loss. Brendan Allen obviously fighting the number 10 contender Andre Muniz next. That's how you know that the win or the loss has aged well. He's beat Dusko Todorovic. He's beaten Jamie Pickett. He's beaten some well-known guys at middleweight. And we move on to Kopylov, who's also 9-2, but his UFC record is 1-2. He's coming off a win against Alessio Di Chirico by a knockout in the third round. This fight was in September on the France card. Yeah, that was the Paris card. Soriano's last fight was in July. I think that was, this was for the Ortega Rodriguez card. Before that, he was on a 2-fight losing streak against Carl Robertson and Albert Duraev. So these guys are pretty similar in circumstances, besides the fact that Soriano has more wins in the UFC than losses, and Kopylov has more losses than wins. So what I think is going to win this fight, if we look at both of their records, resumes, and how they've beaten their opponents, Kopylov gets a lot of wins by knockout, a lot of finish wins. In fact, his only professional fight that didn't go to some kind of finish was his fight against Albert Duraev. That was a unanimous decision loss. He has never been knocked out in his career. I don't think Soriano's been knocked out either. Nope, both these fights came by unanimous and split decisions. Who do I think is going to win? Oh, yeah, obviously, Soriano also has wins with not only on the feet, but also on the ground. He has some good wins. And we've seen his power. We've seen him knock out Dalka in July. So who do I think is going to win? I think Soriano has gone against the more tougher opponents, the more well-known guys. I think that's gonna be the main decider as well, and the fact that he has more wins in the UFC than Kopylov. Obviously, that doesn't always mean more, or that doesn't always mean a lot. But I think this time around, Soriano's fought a lot higher level guys than Kopylov and beaten them as well, some of them. So I think Soriano takes it, and I think he takes it by, let me think. That's the thing. Both of these guys have never been knocked out, so and they've only lost by decisions. So I'd say Soriano by some kind of unanimous decision is my pick for that. Now, Dan Ige versus Damon Jackson. I've been thinking about this fight a lot. If I'm honest, even right now, I don't really have I haven't really decided who I think is going to win. Dan Ige, 50K. He's 15-6 professionally, 7-5 in the UFC, currently on a 3-fight losing streak against some of the best guys at featherweight. You know, the Korean Zombie, Josh Emmett, and most recently, Mavsar Evloev, who is undefeated. We move on to Damon Jackson, who's 22-4, so a much better record than Dan Ige's. He's 5-2 in the UFC with 1 draw and 1 no contest. He is one of 2 fighters to have everything, you know. He's coming off of a 4-fight winning streak, which include the likes of Charles Rosa and Kamala Kirk. So his last fight was a first-round knockout, first-minute knockout against Paul Sabatini in September. So this is a pretty impressive winning streak to come off of. Of course, he had that loss against Ilia Topuria. Then again, everybody Ilia Topuria fought, he beat. So I don't know. It's not a terrible record, honestly. Besides that, he's only lost 3 times, and he still has those 22 wins to make up for it. He's got a lot of fights in the UFC. He had 2 fights in the UFC here, and then 3 fights, and then I think he got cut because he just didn't get a win. But it looks like he got signed once again, and since then he's gone 5-1 in the UFC after getting re-signed. So his only loss in that time was against Ilia Topuria, so it's pretty impressive what he's been able to do there. However, most of his losses they've come by his more recent losses they've all come by loss by knockout. Obviously, this one's in 2017. We're not going to really look at that. This was in 2019. Even that one's a bit long ago. But lost by jumping knee in the first round. In the PFL, that's damn. You did not make your statement on the PFL. And he got knocked out by Ilia Topuria, but a lot of people have gotten knocked out by Ilia Topuria, so I don't know if we can really say much about his chin because he's won every fight since then. He wasn't able to knock out Charles Rosa, so I don't know about that one. But his most recent win came by ground and pound. It's pretty impressive. He got a punch knockout here. Dan Ige, obviously, this is the fight that's on my mind for Dan Ige right now. This is the Gavin Tucker fight. Just a huge right cross that just sent him down, and he was out for like a little bit. Man, he's 13-2 in the UFC. One of those two losses came from Dan Ige. That was his most recent loss. Before that, he had never gotten knocked out. So for Dan Ige to do that, I mean, that's pretty impressive. But he couldn't put away Korean Zombie or Mafsar or Josh Emmett. But those are really high-level guys. A lot of split decision wins, a lot of unanimous decisions as well. Obviously, the Gavin Tucker fight's kind of like the black sheep in his resume for looking at more recent fights. But I'm still just unsure who will take it. You know, I want to say Damon Jackson. I think Damon Jackson could definitely get it done. But I'm not sure. Dan Ige might take it as well. This is a tough one to decide, but like, I don't know. Let me think. Let me just think a little bit more. He's gotten knocked out in 3 promotions. He got knocked out in the UFC, the LFA, and the PFL. That's crazy. Man, if I had to go with one guy, I mean, Damon Jackson just has a lot more experience in the UFC. I mean, he got signed and then cut and then re-signed. The first time he got signed was before Dan Ige's first time getting signed. If I had to pick one, nah. I feel like losing streak and everything, unanimous decisions. You know what? I'll go with Damon Jackson by decision. I'm still unsure about that pick, but you know, if Dan Ige wins, I wouldn't be surprised. But if Damon Jackson wins, I wouldn't be surprised either. It's just, for me, it's pretty hard to tell who would win this one. But I'm gonna go with Damon Jackson. If he wins, he'll enter the featherweight ranking, so that'll be pretty good for him. So another fight. This is the co-main event. Another fight that's pretty tough to call is the main event: Sean Strickland versus Nasruddin Imavov. Now, with this fight, there are a lot of circumstances that will influence the way I predict how this fight will go. The main one being in part, Sean Strickland stepped in on short notice, 6 days notice, for this fight. I'm pretty sure it was 6 days notice. Yeah, I think it was 6 days notice. It was on Monday, pretty sure. And it's a 205-pound catchweight. Sean Strickland weighed in 10 pounds heavier on weigh-in day. That was today. That was a few hours ago. He hasn't been training at all for this fight. He said that he hasn't really been training too much, not as much as his previous fights at least. I think, look, if we look at his last fights, he's on a 2-fight losing streak. You know, one of them was a split decision loss. One of them was a first-round knockout. Some very different, very different outcomes there. But the 2-fight losing streak is going to be a problem. But the good thing is, you know, he fought near the middle of December. He didn't take much damage from that fight, so he shouldn't be too fatigued or anything like that. Sean Strickland's always sparring, even if he wasn't training much. I think his cardio is going to be fine, especially with his fighting style. He won't tire. He won't gas out if he just fights the way he usually does. But I think if he fights the way he usually does, he probably won't win against a guy like Nasruddin Imavov, who is 12-3. He's 4-1 in the UFC. Sean Strickland brought this up. That Sean Strickland made Phil Haas quit sparring after the first round, and Nasruddin Imavov lost by a majority decision to him. Since then, he's gone on a 3-fight winning streak. When he's got a knockout win against Ian Heinisk, he's got a win against Edmund Shabazian by knockout as well. Even though it was like not that, it wasn't like a flashy knockout. There were like some elbows on the ground that didn't look like they did too much damage, but he was bloodied up and they cut him, so the referee waved off the fight. And obviously the win against Joaquin Buckley, where he did gas out in that last round. That's something to think about with this fight, because Sean Strickland does not gas out. And maybe that's just because he has less output. But I think when it comes to cardio for cardio, I think Sean Strickland has the better gas tank and more composure. He's fought the better opponents. He's gone up against the number 3 guy, Jared Cannonier. He's gone up against the current champion, Alex Pereira. He's beaten Jack Hermanson. He's beaten Uriah Hall, Christoph Yako, Brendan Allen. These are some good wins to have. He's even gone 3 rounds against Kamaru Usman. So, it's the guys he's fought and some of the guys he's beaten as well. It's pretty impressive. Not to say that Imavov's isn't, but I think Sean Strickland has more experience against tougher guys. That doesn't mean that Nasruddin Imavov doesn't have a chance, because Shabazian, that's still not a bad win. Even he was on a 2-fight losing streak. That's the thing. But Shabazian, it's a good win. It's the fight that got him into the rankings, and then of course to beat Joaquin Buckley is pretty good too. Even if it didn't age that well, especially since his last fight against Chris Curtis. But I think the main thing right now is the fact that Strickland's stepping in on 6 days' notice. Imavov had a full training camp. He knew for months that this fight was happening. He's been training for months for this fight. The fact that I think the only thing that will really affect this fight is that Sean Strickland is a little bit heavier, but I don't think that'll do that much. If I had to say, it's really close. It's tough for me to decide, so that's why I'm just kind of like stalling, because I'm just trying to think of who I'd go with. But if I had to pick one, if I had to make a prediction, I think Imavov will take it by a decision, any kind of decision. Probably unanimous, maybe majority. Nah, probably not majority. I think it'll be some kind of unanimous decision. I think we'll start to see, people will start to think that they're looking at a like kind of a decline of Sean Strickland. I think Strickland will lose this fight, but I think the next person he fights, he'll definitely beat them, whoever it is, But if I had to pick one, I'd say Imavov, just because he's had way more time in training. He's had way more time taking this serious. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Sean Strickland pulls off some kind of win, but it's a close fight. Like, if you look at the odds, Imavov is like -115, and Sean Strickland's like -1 something. Like, they're both in the minuses. It's a pretty close odds, but I completely forgot to pull up like the UFC's website for this. I could open it up right here though. Yeah, Strickland versus Imavov. My picks, I got Umar Nurmagomedov by decision. I got Kellen Vieira by decision. Soriano by decision. Damon Jackson by decision. And Imavov by decision. Yeah, that's kind of a lot of decisions. I do see some finishes happening in the prelims. I don't think this card is gonna be super boring. I just think that all of them are gonna go to decisions, and it's not gonna be the most entertaining card. But it definitely won't be boring, I feel like, because I feel like with some of the decisions I have, some of them will actually be like genuinely good fights, like the Soriano and Kopylov fight. I don't think the Vieira Pennington fight will be too good. The Nurmagomedov fight will be okay. I think the Dan Ige Damon Jackson fight is gonna be pretty good. There might even be a finish. Like, I'm not even sure about the decision pick that I put. I think a finish is also pretty likely from both these guys. And the Sean Strickland Imavov fight, I always like watching Sean Strickland fight. I don't even know why. It's just enjoyable for me. So I'll definitely be looking forward to this one. It's happening tomorrow, the UFC Apex for UFC Vegas 67. Yeah, those are my picks. I take Imavov by decision, but if Strickland wins, I wouldn't be surprised either.